Giddy up, let's go.
What's going on, sir?
I had a great day.
Did you hit Bed Bath and Beyond and Home Depot, or did you not have enough time?
Did not go to Olive Garden. No.
Top golf's a good time, though, for sure.
Yeah, and I totally killed it. So I'll be sore tomorrow, I'm sure. And I got to watch the third episode of Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and then tomorrow I get jury duty.
Actual jury duty?
Yeah. Yeah, not the TV show, like
Well,
actual.
because that is coming back. There is a jury duty show called Company Retreat that's coming. Welcome to this episode of the Prestige Ish Media Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lake, and with me is someone who's apparently killing it and really sore, Dan McNair. Dan, how are you this evening?
That is so nice of you to say. You're as kind as Alice with three fingers.
Hiyo. So we are talking about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Season 1, Episode 3, The Squire. Initial thoughts and a rating from you, Dan.
This was a great episode. I know I've been kind of hesitant and skeptical thus far, but Egg is really just like a dynamo. Like he's cracking me up. Definite MVP here. And you know, they didn't dog and pony show us. Like at the end, like what I thought was going to be a drawn out mystery through the whole season of his true identity, like they just did the thing. And I applaud them for that, for not jerking us around. I wonder how savvy I would be to it if I could sliding doors have a watching of this show where I wasn't a podcaster. I didn't have reels and links pop up in my feed all the time, like giving different insights. I hadn't read the source material or really know what was going on here. I wonder if I would be as savvy to some of the stuff that we know and if it would be a different watch. But the fact that they just came right out with it, I applaud them and I was kind of happy with it. So I gave
Uh,
it an 8.6 for my rating.
okay, I got it as an 8.9. I'm really liking the show and pretty arbitrary between an 8.9 and a 9 for me and a 10. I mean, I'm just really enjoying the show and where it's going. I think it's been the perfect pacing and the right amount. And yeah, maybe I'd like an extra 5 minutes in this world, but the fact that
Whoa, whoa, for you to say that.
I mean, it was 31 minutes or less. It is so nice to just be able to get a viewing of something and not spend our whole evening as we've got to cover the current content and the post content and then edit the content and then post the content. You just get the right amount of morsel and move on and you get it another week. And I think, like we've talked about before, the fact that we're ideally getting a return to this universe next year, while even though it might be smaller morsels, getting it more often might be interesting as well. With all that said, yeah, I think Dunk continues to kill, or Egg continues to kill it, as I've said. And what I will say about Dunk is it's hard to play a tall, dumb oaf that isn't stereotypical. You know what I mean? And so I would say that the actor who is playing Dunk, I'd like to commend him as well, because this could be too tropey or too much of a cookie cutter type character. And I think Dunk's got good dimension to him, and he doesn't play dumb too hard. You know what I mean? There's goofy minutes, and yeah, he doesn't know everything, but he's not just an oaf. And so I'm really enjoying that. Anything else from you before we jump into this?
Just kind of like in a broad stroke sense,
Hiya.
I like that we're far enough away from the shadow of Game of Thrones that now I can kind of start to see them doing different types of things within the universe. If this came out a year after Game of Thrones ended, I really wouldn't know what to think of it because you have so much established there that you might not be ready for a different type of show. And I think almost having two seasons of House of the Dragon and one of them being pretty terrible puts a show like this in a good favor where we're a little bit more ready to accept something different and see that it is good quality, even though it's a completely different show. I think there's something to be said there for having a little time and space to get into this. I'm finding my night legs, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think maybe we look at Game of Thrones a little different as, which is surprising to me because, we've only got into so much Game of Thrones together. We kind of land more closer together than not on the controversial last season, you know what I mean? But you do seem to land sometimes in the not my Game of Thrones camp, you
Yeah.
know? And for me, I'm just like, to me, this is my Game of Thrones, even though they are doing like so very easy to point out the differences, right? We've had one pooper dick reference every episode. Game of Thrones, we'd at least got a boob by now. But and
That's your biggest difference.
and
No boobs
well,
is
no,
like your
the only other two really to me are obviously we've talked about the cutback scenes, and you get this kind of to me what was one of the moments of the episode. Unfortunately, it was spoiled in the trailer for this episode. But the scene where they're doing the "Oh, I'm Duncan, I'm Egg" and doing that like exchange, that's just so far out of what we're used to. But I would just argue that I think Game of Thrones has more humorous moments than you've given it credit for. And certainly there's different eras of Thrones. Like that first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, and I wasn't watching live then the first 3 seasons. And so I really came in around season 4. But by the time I came around, it was more event watching, and there was so much on Twitter and Dem Thrones. And I don't know, it was just an event. And so I don't have the history of the book material that you do and some of the other people do. And so for me, this is what I like about the show. It's funny, and you're seeing conflict now, and we got to reveal this episode. And so I think that was my main thing looking at it from your perspective is you finally got your conflict, you son of a. They broke a woman's finger. I hope you're proud of yourself. A horse got stabbed in the neck. I hope this pleases you, my lord, that you finally got all your blood and gore.
plus I'm a full point and a half up from the last episode's rating. So yeah, I'm digging
Um,
it, baby. This is my bag, baby.
yeah, no, I agree. I think I just felt this was all coming. And I think, like you mentioned rightfully so at the beginning, you are more skeptical of us getting here. And we're here now, and we both like it. So we start with kind of creepy Egg watching Dunk sleep at first. I just always think anybody watching somebody else sleep is funny unless it's like your dog. I guess I think that's less creepy. But he makes like this horse noise to get up and get the horse ready. I think I was waiting for him to try to wake Dunk, but that wasn't what he was doing. He was getting up himself so he could bring the weapon and the horse out and start the training. And we saw the tease last episode and that change of both maybe his family seeing him, but also maybe him realizing how serious his role was going to be as this squire. And so what did you make of this entrance with him trying to train the stubborn old iron horse? And this is his fighting horse. We talked a little bit last episode about which horse he would sell or not sell. Obviously the other one was maybe his leisure horse, and this is his war horse of sorts.
And of course, we get the horse shitting right away, which,
Yes, we
like,
did.
check that off your box. I was impressed trying to figure out if the horse was just incredibly well trained or AI. And if I can't tell the difference, that's pretty good. I'm assuming it was AI and they couldn't have trained a horse to be that good with some of the stuff, but the horse was a character.
Yeah, I took it as a real horse. I
It
thought the
looked
nods,
real.
yeah, I thought the nods were a little much. I'm sure it reads a little different in book form than what you're trying to show on screen. And I'm sure it almost seemed as if the horse nodded. And in the show, they've got the Gordy peanut butter on his upper mouth so he can talk his way through the episode. I was more absorbing the act of this Egg, who also now we know confirmed is of this royal lineage, who's getting out there and get the horse ready and liking it, it seems. Anything else on this?
I thought it was a great acting performance by both.
Yes, Bojack did his job. I didn't grab a name, but we've got Eye Patch Man accusing him of stealing that horse.
Sir
I
Robin
got yeah.
Riesling.
There it is. There it is. Yep. A funny exchange as he goes, "What's wrong with your hair and what's wrong with your eye?" And I assume this guy's going to come around again. It would be my guess. It seems like similar to some of the other characters we've gotten in other seasons from the show. Like it seemed like it might possibly be a menacing character, but maybe it becomes somebody who can give some advice later for Duncan, or who knows. And I guess because I did see the preview for the next episode, maybe I've got an idea of where he might come in. But what's your thoughts on this?
I really enjoyed the story of his eye patch. Like we've got two shows with eye patches
We're
going on
back to
right
back
now.
eye patches. Yeah.
But like,
No, we got three in a row.
oh yeah,
We've got
in
the
Welcome to Derry. Like, was there one in
three-peated.
Stranger Things somewhere that I'm not remembering? We could have a
Probably.
foursome.
Yeah, we're at least on a three-peat here.
But the detail in the flashback, like I've been enjoying the way they've been doing these quick one-hitter flashbacks. And so telling that backstory just in a glimpse was pretty cool. I mean, they set up Egg for this episode really well with him like calling out the knight by name, seeming to have a memory reference point for how he did lose his eye and recognizing him. And just the visual in the flashback of the eye dangling out of the socket after he was hit in the head with the lance. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, I was taking notes, so I didn't get as good of a look at that dangling eye.
Oh,
Thankful for
like, yeah,
that.
it was awesome.
We really see the relationship with Duncan Egg continue to build this episode where he's teaching him how to sew his patch. It did seem like Dunk was a little pissy early, like unusually, but I guess it was his way of showing how nervous he was that he thought he got to fight today, but later found out that today would only be nights of high birth and renown. And so he's not that, definitely. I did think another key line of the episode when Egg started asking about black hairs growing out of his stones, if he thinks it's odd, and him saying that he thinks it's odd. He asked that. Any comments there, Dan?
I think there's a lot of reasons why Dunk could feel this way. Definitely, you're on it with him anticipating the fight, but also him trying to like do the night things to a Squire that like maybe Sir Arlen did to him and feeling like he needs to have some weird measure or imaginary version of control. So he like talks mean, but then he very quickly reverts to a sewing lesson. So we've got sewing and they even made that whole thing seem enjoyable in this episode. So I could tell I really turned a corner when I'm enjoying sewing and shitting.
So we got two songs, two premiere songs. One you mentioned in the open about old, what is it, Alice, two fingers or three
Alice with the
fingers
three fingers.
to the bone. But there's this one. What's the song? It's Hello Operator, send me M number 9. And if you disconnect me, I'll kick you in the behind the refrigerator. They're laid a piece of glass. No, I'll kick you in your ass. Me, no more questions. It seemed like that kind of tone and beat, but the Game of Thrones version of that Egg was singing as he was, I don't know if he was cutting an apple or whittling a wood or what was going on. He was sitting in a
he's
tree.
he's the wood whittler.
I know I mean, obviously it's even Tolkien, they have their songs and it's kind of like a fantasy type thing, but it's also a very Game of Thrones George type thing where he has these songs. I'm curious what's in book, but I assume based on what we're hearing about these season, these are like word for word in the book, maybe without the music. What did you make of both the songs?
Normally, I'm not big on in-universe songs because it seems like an author trying to be a songwriter. But in both of these cases, like they were catchy, they were clever. Like I wondered if this was a song that like maybe carried on and existed in Game of Thrones and they brought it back here. I believe very much that they were unique to this, but both of them were like a level above, a couple levels above one of the Hobbit songs or Lord of the Rings songs or something like that. Like a lot of times, like Stephen King will try and write like song lyrics in, one of his books, and it's just, okay, so you like music, but you're not good at this. Do what you do well, but here, like, it worked.
The Hobbit cartoon dares to say you're a piece of for your analysis on Hobbit music, but other than that, I get your point, and I generally agree. Most times, the songs sometimes fall short. Although I do think Tolkien is maybe a little higher for hits than most when he's at his best, but at his worst, he's talking about elves that don't exist.
Well,
Dicking
if
off to
if
faraway
you
lands.
if you read the books, there's a lot of song lyrics that you have to get through to get like back to the story.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
kind
and
of like, whoa.
no, a lot of them suck, but there's some high points. I mean, there that I do agree overall. I get what you're throwing it down, but I would not be myself if I did not defend the Hobbit song specifically. We get him going to town and he gets like goose eggs, and there's this exchange. I don't know what other tongue is spoken by this goose butcher, but apparently he doesn't understand the native tongue very well. Somebody who does understand the native tongue, old Tonzel, shows up. Too tall Tonzel.
Puppet Girl.
He asks her if she likes goose eggs, which is just kind of awkward, but we find out that his shield will be done this evening. That was a thing with Egg earlier, is you don't even have your shield yet, and it's
Like,
not
why am I
time to
gonna go
fight.
fetch your armor? There's no point. Yeah.
Um,
Just that Egg understands the whole setup, what day it is, the order of events. Like he's pretty useful as a squire.
Yeah, no, I like across the board, both the actor and the character is pretty endearing. What did you make of this egg sandwich? One of the reasons I was about 10 minutes late for the pod, I made myself an egg sandwich before the show. In art imitating life, I didn't quite have the big Dagwood that they had, but I didn't know they could make egg sandwiches back then. Sliced bread wasn't invented yet. What did you make of all this?
It's the best thing since sliced bread, Craig. It looked delicious.
Yeah,
I don't know about goose eggs, but a little bit of ham in the skillet. Let's get that on the Cheesecake Factory menu.
salt hard beef, Dan. We get them watching more of the beginnings of the tournament and them cheering similar to last episode until it's not. I do really enjoy how much Egg enjoys the event, or they enjoy the event together. Like,
He's like you at the Royal Rumble, I swear. He's like just popping out of his chair.
yeah, and then a funny exchange of, and to me, one of the other parts of the episode that I mentioned earlier, it's, oh, I'm Egg and I can't eat salt hard beef. I can't even drink a pint of ale. And he's, because it's terrible, and they go through that exchange. I assume you didn't see the preview trailer, and how did that hit you fresh and clean?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny them doing a little back and forth. And there is a neat chemistry between the two, which really helps the show work.
And then we get our Last of Us. Wasn't there a thing with Joel who was just gonna raise sheep or something?
Oh yeah.
And we get the I could be fine here for a while, like raising lambs and growing peas, or some version of that, or he says cows. And then Dunk says something about lambs, and he says, fuck your lambs. I'm wondering, aren't the dragons like notorious for torching lambs, or isn't there a lamb torch? I didn't know if there was like a dragon anti-lamb thing there.
I thought what they do is they like tie him to a post and let the dragon barbecue it or something
So
like.
I didn't know, like maybe he didn't, maybe there was a lamb tie-in there. We do get that he doesn't want to talk about his background. I think this was the episode they hit us over the head the most with the potential issues with his lineage. But I still don't think they ever like really overdid it, especially because they made the big reveal this episode. What did you make of it in the two episodes prior, and then obviously a lot more contextual clues this episode?
Yeah, it didn't seem like too much to me as a viewer, but I feel more deluged just like in the social media and the different stuff that falls into my algorithm that's too much. So just when I'm watching the short episode, they'll have a nod here and there and it's almost expected to me. Like they need to dangle that within the story. But I didn't feel it was over the top in any sort of way. I thought it was just about right.
Yeah, I thought they've been really subtle to this episode. I think it was just about right in this episode for the reveal, because you'll have the people that are like, they didn't, how are we supposed to know? To your point at the beginning of the episode, I feel like this might have gone over my head if I wasn't totally in the zeitgeist of the world, because they
Yeah,
hit it
it's
so.
hard to watch it in a silo.
I feel like this is the episode I would have got it by like the end or by the next episode, but by making the reveal this episode, not dangling it too long, they might have got me if I didn't have to exist in our real world. But like you said, impossible to really know, but I feel like they might have got me, or I would have just been coming to Jesus with everything this episode. Our boy Plumber, he is a man of honor and a man of phlegm again. The phlegm is back. He comes to Dunk with this indecent proposal of sorts. He doesn't want him to sleep with Lord Ashford's son, but he does want him to possibly beat him in the opening round of the tourney. There's something to be said that he probably could have beat him anyway, but thus is the conflict. You've been looking for conflict, Dan. Obviously, we
Yeah.
get bigger conflict later, but what did you make of this part?
I guess I would throw a question back at you. Like, how soon did you realize that this was a conversation about fixing a fight?
It was coming to me pretty quick. I had a feeling that's what it was. He does bring up the daughter, and we've seen the daughter. So I was like, maybe he's going to throw her in there somehow, as they're wont to do. But I figured something was going on. But the other side was, I didn't know if they were going to ask him to lose, is I guess what I was more concerned with.
Yeah, and that's exactly my read on it. And maybe because we both have ties to sports gambling in Las Vegas, we might be more savvy than like the average Game of Thrones fantasy fan for a story like this. But the games master seems a little shady when he asks to talk to Dunk all alone. I'm like, what is this about? And yeah, exactly along the lines of what you're saying. I was expecting them to have Dunk throw it because I would think that even though Dunk is like a rookie in this, that just his size and that sort of thing might not make it like a landslide that the odds were going to be in his opposition. So I thought like the throwing of it seemed kind of off. And if you'll permit me a theory corner, I think Dunk kind of found a way out of this because what I'm assuming to happen is the events at the end of the episode are going to derail the tournament listings so that he winds up in a different match and doesn't even have this opportunity, is kind of where I see it maybe heading.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's accurate. They do tease what's coming next in the after episode, so I won't spoil that now, but it's maybe a little different than I was expecting, but definitely along the lines what you're saying. They kind of paint him out of this corner, maybe, but we don't know. Will they ever go back to it? Have we seen the last of this? I don't know. What I will say is, I do like once again that Plummer is not like a mustache twirly villain. You're calling him like seedy or whatever he is, but like he also seems like he has some level of care for Duncan, and he is. It seems more like a scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing versus a true. What I like it as well is that Duncan seems to be making a lot of different inroads with these people in these higher positions than
This is
him.
true.
And,
And you
and
would expect them to all on him for being a dumb oaf, but he's making friendships and endearing himself.
And that's where I'll say, like, I don't have the connection to George that a lot of people do. But when I see something like this, as we are saying, like, my expectation, because tropey expectations would be they're going to ask him to throw the match, and that would be gut wrenching. And it might be a fine choice. There might be a way to write that. But to me, that's where somebody like George Martin, it's like, he's pretty good because he's set up this different expectation. And we talk sometimes about when you have trust in a writer or a show. I have trust in George if he's written something. I haven't trusted him that he's going to write something.
I can't trust him that he'll clean out the garage.
Yeah, and like George Lucas, I do think they both make some things up as they go along and try to pretend like it was planned the whole time. But outside of those things, he is a really great writer, and so some like in a show that's using more of his text by the book, I can find those appreciations as somebody that's maybe not reading as much of George, but seeing the writing come out here. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
What's the name of the foot guy that likes Allison and
Blair,
Valeris? I didn't you make kind of a similarity between Valeris and
Laris, and I think what
oh,
is
I'm
his?
sorry, Laris.
Yeah, the drunk brother in the inn I was mentioning.
Okay.
Kind of what?
Because
Go ahead.
I see a likeness between him and the Games Master, but the Games Master is like the likable version of Laris. He's
Yeah,
like his
that's
clean cousin or something.
Yeah, that's fair enough. He's the not funny Uncle Laris. So, yeah, we see Prince. Is it Aerion? Because my autocorrect has really gone haywire, but
Yeah.
I think it's Aerion. It autocorrected to Adrian. It autocorrected every time I wrote his name, but pretty sure it was Aerion. Aerion Brightflame. So he is the oldest of the Makar brothers. Makar was gone. Were they saying he was out to look for his son? So maybe he's tracking down the second brother as all this is going. Aerion has a pretty fancy outfit and he makes his appearance and I think calls out his first opponent. Come out, little knight. It's time to face the dragon. I think it's his cousin. We get Egg as the battle begins saying kill him. So that's enough. I think by now, like you would start to be wondering because while Egg has been cheering the whole time, he's been really low on like Dan like bloodlust and he just lets all of it out here.
All of a sudden, he's got a real rooting interest.
And you can tell something's going wrong as Dunk says he's too low. He's too low because he's aiming for the neck of the horse. And so he kills this horse. It seems, does the horse like break its owner's leg?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what the short night, like, I missed what his injury was, but he's laying there like with a bloody mouth. And so, yeah, I figured like the horse fell on him and snapped something.
But, and I assume the guy that came out to kill something just killed the horse. But the way it played out, it made it look like they just both be put to death. And then this riot ensues, which we've already talked about. This was supposed to be the Targaryens making inroads by showing up for this thing, and they've already made a show of it in typical retarg form. Your thoughts on this whole sequence of events?
Yeah, I thought the production value for stabbing the horse in the neck like really hit the mark and the horse's neck. Like it looked believable. It I had a physical reaction. I know you don't like seeing animals harmed, so I imagine you probably, might have tensed up a little bit. And then when they poised the lance over the horse, I'm glad they didn't show that. But that was impactful.
And I think Game of Thrones is such an interesting show because really my turning point of the show, and so spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the Red Wedding, but buckle up. But that moment of the Red Wedding, and then they're wearing the dire wolf, the Stark dire wolf, and Arya's watching it all. For me, that was a moment that I almost left the show, and especially with the wolf being so dog related, I was like, I don't like any of this at all. But there's something about this show that is like a train wreck that you find some value in, or like what I can say is like you see the horse get stabbed in the neck, and to your point, it's oh, that's a Game of Thrones moment. And I like this show, and I normally don't like stuff like this. So, just an interesting dichotomy of our human brains and emotions. But certainly, if it was a dog, I probably would have had to turn it off. But I don't like most animals. I don't have an affinity for them being killed, and but I was fine with it. It was like I almost felt like I was at home with a horrible turn of events being very Game of Thrones-ish.
Yeah, it felt like they were dancing to the line, which you kind of want to push the envelope in a show like this to be a little bit uncomfortable, but not completely turned off to the show.
Yeah, so I would say definitely did not appreciate the horse dying, but it definitely builds this villain that we're confronting. And we get to talk about his honor as a knight. Sir Dunk basically saying he almost doesn't even want to think that a knight would have so little honor. You can see things like his relationships with horses building to something like this for him to go Dunk Wick later on, possibly. Yeah, we get the Lionel thing. I think Lionel is good in small doses, but Lionel Sparrow just orgying it up every episode. Your mileage may vary there, but the song about Alice, and what I liked more about the song about Alice was the post analysis,
Oh, the breakdown of it. That was hilarious.
especially by Egg. And I guess the summary was something like this song about a crippled girl being so good at pleasuring men, finding her place in the world, like perhaps it being a song of honor. And there gets a point where they talk about it not being a real name, and Egg kind of being offended almost that her own name wouldn't get mentioned in the song. But then eventually he comes to almost a self conclusion where he says, her name is Hope, sir, and it belongs to all who invoke it. And once again, I don't know George as well as anyone, but I can recognize a great written line when I see it. And I've also heard and read enough to know he's got that little perverted side to him. And
No, he sure does.
combining this with that seems to be trademark George to me. And so I thought this was all very well done. Your thoughts?
Oh, I agree with it. And I thought the song was very, of the universe, but the breakdown of it was really where I thought they took it to another place that I enjoyed even that much more.
That was just very well written. We get the fortune teller. I'm not really the biggest fan of, I'm not Jessica Z level of don't tell me any prophecies or anything like that. Like I can understand the importance of some, but and it seems like George plays like this too. Some prophecies have value and some are just like red herrings and, what a fun time we all get to sort through them. But there is this thing where she tells Sir Dunk that he's going to be richer than a Lannister, but then he says to Egg, who Dunk doesn't know at this time who Egg is, that he's going to be a king and basically be burned alive and everybody's going to rejoice in his death. Is that more or less what we get here?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, dead on. And to me, this just established the difference between Dunk and Egg. Dunk just laughs it off, ha, silly stuff. But Egg's, that's a little too close.
When he obviously has information that Dunk doesn't have at that
Yeah.
time. So Raymond invite Duncan for cider. It seems like Egg's trying to avoid something. Maybe it's being around Raymond for too long, which there is talk about the Targaryen kids missing coming up in the cider tent meeting. And so he's going to go to the puppet play. This was also in the pre-episode, unfortunately, because I thought it was an interesting line, but you see Raymond go into this like they're incestuous aliens, Dunk, when Dunk starts to question their honor. He's, oh, you don't think they wouldn't have honor? And then, but what I actually really liked is he almost went into this like modern tinfoil
Conspiracy
anti-government.
theory.
Yeah. And so I actually really appreciated that. We,
What's the line, Bart?
for me, it was what do you have?
I don't have it exactly, but it's something like the only noble thing a
Oh,
Targaryen
I
would.
do. The only honorable thing a Targaryen can do is finish on his wife's tits. That is the line. I did take that down. So I did not dishonor you or the podcast there, Dan.
Okay, I knew I could count on you.
Yeah, I did have that. So we've got Egg at the puppet show. His brother shows up. I did get a better understanding. I don't know if there's three or four brothers, or is the drunk brother the one that becomes the maester, or is the one they were talking about the maester still out there? That's the one that ends up at the wall that I thought that ends up being Aemon. So I
I,
don't know if there's
I was
another.
I was gonna ask you how many brothers,
There's
and
three or four, but I didn't understand even that until this episode. But I at least have a better clue. Go ahead.
I believe there's four.
Okay.
I think the one that becomes the Night's Watch.
The Maester
Um,
of the Night's Watch, who is
I
Aemon,
don't think
I
we've
think.
seen him or they've hardly even mentioned him. I think he's like kind of the missing fourth.
But when they mention one of the brothers going off to be a maester, I think that's the first actual mention of him that we get. So if you
Okay,
do
and I
go
thought they
back,
might have been talking about Egg at that point.
I didn't know who they're talking about, but I'm pretty sure I hear maester. I'm pretty sure that's going to be what they're invoking. So yeah, you could see that this would go wrong because it's about the dragon being defeated and there's no dragons in the world now, and they're appropriating Aerion's heritage here for sport. And there's this quick thing of Egg running to get Sir Dunk coming back as she's getting her finger broke, and then he goes into his fit of rage. And we get the big reveal at the end. What did you make of the end here and the reveal itself?
I like just the tension that was involved, that we get to this place where Aerion, basically is our Daemon this season, like the cruel, like he's taking offense to a puppet of a dragon being killed. And then in the story, like the dragons like should always win, something. And he's just like taking it way too far. And Dunk being the honorable hero basically goes to save Tansel, and but knowing that Aegon is lurking in the background and trying not to have his identity revealed. And Dunk's holding his own in this fight. I like the shots that he gets in on Aerion. That felt good. That was rewarding. I enjoyed that. And they kind of almost do this curb stomp on Dunk. So there was a tension there. And he's got his teeth over the stage, and they're gonna try and do a medieval tooth extraction. And it's Aegon to the rescue. And that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so we get this like, why did you throw your life away from this for this horror exchange? And Arian talking about having his one of his teeth loosened. And this seems to be a very common Targaryen theme, but you could also just say it's like a biblical eye for an eye type theme. But there's
Tooth for a tooth.
yeah,
Tooth for a
mouth
tooth.
first. Yeah, yeah. And that seems to be the Targaryen exchange usually when something like this goes on.
Their rate's like 26 to 1.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised to see Egg reveal himself and almost surprised at the power he wielded so quickly, like that he was able to wield because we've obviously
I,
go
I'm
ahead.
just glad that he didn't reveal himself like Sir Arlen. I mean, there's a lot of revealing themselves that's been going on in this show so far.
Did
I'll
this
take this kind of a
He
reveal.
did discuss his, and I would like to point out, 9-year-old pubes this episode. But yeah, the one thing I will
Yeah,
say,
so that's the type of thing you like to point out, Craig? What is wrong with you?
no, I
Shame
just
on you, good sir. Stop raping.
one that was mentioned in the after episode. But the other thing that was mentioned, and I do feel this episode was very well directed and all the way well done. But what the director said the goal of the last scene was to really show the betrayal for Sir Dunk versus the big reveal. And for me, this was the big reveal, not the betrayal. So I think
Yeah.
the theme of the end of this is that Dunk feels very betrayed by this, but I did not get this out of this episode at all.
I did not take that read on it because I don't read Dunk as, I mean, I do get him being a person of honesty and honor, but Egg has been giving hints all over town.
The
Dunk knows that he's dense. So the fact that he didn't pick up on him isn't Aegon's fault.
the post episode summary is basically like he lost Sir Arlen and he didn't really want to trust anyone, and so he trusts Egg, and now Egg isn't maybe who he thought he was. But I think that they can explore that, and I'll allow for it in the next episode. But I just don't think that was delivered this episode at all, and that's
Yeah,
no
I mean, he might be butthurt for 3 minutes, but let's move on.
yeah. So we'll see what happens next episode there. Anybody that does watch the scenes from the next episode, I think there's some exciting premises coming. And yeah, I think it was a good episode and a good time. Anything else before we wrap up here?
No, the end of this has been the moment of the season so far for me. Not that I was ever really down on it, but my excitement has registered to a newer level for it. And I'm really excited about the next episode after where this one left off.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say you were enjoying it, but just more gun shy and not sure what you were going to get. And this delivered for you.
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm into it.
Yeah, no, I like it. I'm enjoying it. So looking forward to next week. I should be good on Sunday schedule from here on out, other than the finale. I told you we might live stream. I'm going to be in Punta Cana. So I'm hoping I've got a good
Good
enough
for you, sir. It's about time. What's it been like 2 years?
since what?
You had any Punta Cana come your way?
No, it's been longer than that, man. But yeah, so I'm gonna see because I just think might be cumbersome to edit there. So we might as well just do a live stream and just call it a day. And that way we can get our feet wet. So that's the goal, but we'll have to see how that works.